What is going on, everyone? This is Canadian Yorker here, and we are live on YouTube, bringing you another live stream video talking about football today. I'm talking about soccer football, not American football. I'm talking about this is just a um continuation of my last video, which I apologize for everyone. I was not able to do a fully live streamed video talk. I actually ended up talking for a whole hour, and I thought that I was actually doing the live stream and talking to you guys about the news surrounding the men's national soccer team, the United States men's national soccer team. But when I finished the live stream after I was done talking about everything, I realized I had only talked about for 8 minutes on the live stream. So the location which I was at did not really, I wasn't able to get a really good internet connection because of where it was at. So that's why my live stream for my previous live stream was only 8 minutes long. Um, but we're getting into more of what's going on with the World Cup in this live stream and in this topic. We're going to be avoiding talking about the United States men's national team. There's a lot of things going on with that. So I'm saving that for a separate discussion. But in this discussion, we're talking a little bit more about what's happening around the world of the World Cup in soccer, and there's a lot of things that are going on and a lot of excitement happening. A lot of good things have happened. A lot of scary things have happened as well. So in this live stream, we're going to be going into what's happened thus far, and also catching everybody up to date about what's going on with the World Cup. Um, so without further ado, we're going into some exciting news for Inter Miami soccer fans. For those who are very much into the Major League Soccer um, in the United States. The United States has its own soccer league called the Major League Soccer League in the United States. So and they play all over the country. So in this, so there's some exciting news. Lionel Messi is set to become the owner of Inter Miami after I actually have to do a separate video on Lionel Messi, but this article here talking about he wants to become the owner of Inter Miami, which is really great for soccer fans at Inter Miami because I think he won a championship there in Inter Miami, and he's pretty popular over there. He's pretty popular in the United States. More popular around the world than he is in the United States, but he's pretty popular still. So he's bringing a love of soccer to the U.S. and a lot of people are getting into it more because he's a big star, especially a very big star across the world, just as big as he and Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the biggest names, both the biggest names in soccer. Um, According to this article, this was written September 22nd, 2025, when Lionel Messi made the surprise decision to leave Europe behind and take his talent to the United States. Plenty of people questioned this move, but since joining Inter Miami, the Argentine icon has completely changed the landscape of soccer in America, drawing huge crowds, global attention, and a level of excitement the league hasn't seen before. Now, with his current contract nearing its end, new reports suggest Messi is about to take things to another level, this time not just as a player, but potentially as an owner, with a fresh deal on the table that includes some remarkable perks. According to the reports, Lionel Messi and Inter Miami have fully agreed on a new deal that will keep him at the club for at least 2 more years, with an option for a third. The extension isn't just about his playing career either. Once he hangs up his boots, Messi is set to take on a new role as part owner of the club, giving him a lasting stake in Inter Miami's future. Lionel Messi once again proved why he's the biggest star and biggest name in football, scoring twice and assisting another as Inter Miami as DC United 3-2 in a wild night at the Chase Stadium. The Argentine legend has now hit 22 league goals this season, and this latest performance was another reminder of just how much he's transformed the team. Lionel Messi's first big moment came in the 35th minute, slipping a perfect through ball to Tadeo Allende, who coolly finished to open the scoring. The DC was going down quietly as Christian Benteke equalized early in the second half with a strong header from Brendan Silvania cross. Messi quickly restored Miami's advantage, linking up beautifully with Jordi Alba before tucking the ball just past the keeper. Miami could have put the game away when Matteo Silvetti earned a penalty, but he smashed his shot off the bar. Luckily for the home fans, Messi stepped up again in the 85th minute, curling on a trademark finish from the edge of the box. DC pulled back when one back into deep stoppage time through Jacob Muro, but Miami held on. For Messi, it was his 16th game with a goal and a assist, tying Carlos Vela for a second all-time in MLS history. So there's the article from September 22nd, 2025 from Yahoo Sports. Of course, as I do in all my live streams, I make sure to include all the links to you know, of everything that I talk about on my channel here. So, without further ado, let's get into the next part of what we're talking about here. So Cape Verde is qualified for the World Cup as the second smallest country in tournament history. If anyone knows what Cape Verde is a small country just off the coast of Africa. If I'm not mistaken, they have a really great music, amazing people, great history. They were colonized by the Portuguese back 400 years ago, and they were colonized. The islands were colonized by the Africans during that time, but they really mixed with the Portuguese, so they have a distinct English, like African European uh, history and heritage that they have there, but they speak Portuguese in that country. And Cape Verde is one of the countries that qualified for the World Cup. They're one of the smallest countries in the world to qualify for the World Cup. And so it's exciting to see some of these smaller countries get their names put get their countries put on the map, and that's exciting to see. So I'm really happy to see that these countries are getting their shine, because you always see the bigger countries getting their shine. Um, uh, One thing I forgot also to mention is Cape Verde has put out a lot of famous artists as well, namely Myra Andrade, and I can't exactly remember some of the others, but I have listened to the music. I love the music. I love the culture. I mean, I've never been to Cape Verde, but hopefully one day I hope to go there and visit the country, um, and see. It's just a little bit like the Caribbean in a sense. It has that connection, African connection as well. But getting into this article here, from Fox Sports. They qualified October 13th. This article was written. Cape Verde will play in the World Cup for the first time after beating Eswatini 3-0 to win its group in African qualifying for the 2026 World Cup on Monday. The archipelago of volcanic islands off the western coast of Africa secured one of the 9 automatic spots for the continent. It will be the second smallest country by population to feature in the tournament after Iceland in 2018. Dalen Livramento scored in the 48th minute, Willie Semedo in the 54th, and Stopura in the stoppage time to secure the home victory, first place in D Group. The Blue Sharks finished with 4 more points than Cameroon, which couldn't manage more than 0-0 with Angola at home. Cape Verde, a nation of 525,000 people, arrived needing a victory and could have qualified with a loss as long as Cameroon didn't defeat Angola. The 9 group winners automatically qualified for the World Cup. The 4 best runner-ups played in a mini tournament of the 2 semifinals and a final in November. Cameroon can still advance as a runner-up. The repechage winner advances to FIFA's playoff tournament against opponents from Asia, CONCACAF, South America, and Oceania. Tickets for the Cape Verde match were sold in record time, according to FIFA. The government declared a half-day holiday across the country so many people could watch the game. The 2026 World Cup is the first with an expanded field of 48 teams, up from 32. The other Group D match, Mauritius and Libya drew 0-0. In Group C, Lesotho, I can't even say the name of the country, Lesotho defeated Zimbabwe 1-0 at home. So as you can see here, Cape Verde, congratulations to Cape Verde for qualifying for the World Cup, first ever in this nation's history, and they made it. It's great for them. Hopefully to see them go far in the World Cup. We'll see how they do. Um, Going forward, we have some interesting news coming out about the nation of Israel. So the the I just mentioned this that the Israeli um, athletes who are from the country of Israel are being boycotted by certain countries, and so they cannot perform in certain world certain world sport championships and events, much like how Russia is being boycotted. Um, so reading from this article on BBC.com, this article was written on October 14th, 2025. Israeli gymnasts, including defending world floor champion Artem, forgive me if I butcher his name, Dorgo Piat, will not compete in next week's World Artistic Gymnastics after host Indonesia denied them entry to the country. Indonesia said it would not grant visas to the Israeli team because of the country's military offensive in Gaza. On Tuesday, the Court Arbitration for Sport, otherwise known as CAS, rejected requests from the Israel Gymnastics Federation, the IGF, for urgent provisional measures. The IGF says it was deeply disappointed by um, the Court of Arbitration for Sport (CAS) decision. While a first appeal against the ruling was rejected for a lack of jurisdiction, um, the BBC Sport understands that the hearing for a second appeal will not be held before the World Championships start on Sunday. The IGF wanted the CAS to compel the International Gymnastics Federation, the FIG, to take the necessary measures that guarantee Israel participation in the championships to move or to cancel the event, which runs until October 25th. It said the FIG's lack of measures was a denial of justice and created a situation of discrimination against a member association. The CAF statement argued that it had no prerogatives in the issuing of entry visas, and the Indonesian government's decision not to grant the visas falls outside of the competence of the organization. An IGF statement read, quote unquote, the rules are clear and Indonesia's actions constitute a blatant violation of them. It is inconceivable that a country can bar another nation from competing in the World Championship while the governing bodies stand by. This decision undermines the very foundations of sport and fair competition, and it delivers a severe blow to the morale of the gymnasts and staff who have worked tirelessly for this moment. Dogo Piat said on Instagram, quote unquote, we are so disappointed for the gymnasts, male and female and professional teams, but not only that, we are deeply concerned by the recent decisions that could negatively impact the future of our delegations and the future of sport in general. We will continue to fight, hoping to achieve justice, but unfortunately, we will no longer be able to compete in these world championships, close quote. Djogo Piat was one of six gymnasts alongside Yao Integran, Piatov, Lehivaz, Yali Shoshani, and Roni Shimei, who submitted the request to CAS to the CAF in conjunction with the IGF. Um, Golpiat, who's age 28, launched Olympic floor gold at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and silver in Paris last year. He is also a two-time European champion. In 2023, Indonesia was stripped of its right to host football's Under-20 Cup after the governor of Bali, where the attention was due to take place, where the draw was due to take place, refused to host the Israeli team. Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim nation, one which has no formal diplomatic ties with Israel, was banned from the 1964 Olympics after it refused entry visas for Israel athletes for the 1962 Asian Games. Although the ruling was overturned, Indonesia boycotted the Games. Israel launched its offensive in response to the Hamas-led attack on southern Israel on October 7, 2023, in which 1,200 people were killed and 251 were taken hostage back to Gaza. Since then, more than 67,000 people have been killed by Israel's offensive, according to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry. Its figures are seen as reliable by the United States nations and other international bodies. More than 9 in 10 residential buildings have been damaged or destroyed, according to the UN. Last month, the UN Commission of Inquiry formally declared Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. On Monday, 20 living Israel hostages and hundreds of Palestinian detainees were united with their families as part of a ceasefire deal. In September, Spanish Premier Minister Pedro Sanchez called for Israel to be excluded from international sports competitions over its actions in Gaza, and there have been growing calls for the country to be suspended from international football. So we may not see Israel in the World Cup next year because also not only is it but Iran, because I have covered it, I have covered that also. I remember that Iran also could be excluded from the World Cup, but that remains to be seen with the news coming out, the politics coming out. But according to another article from Sports talking about this same topic, boycott of Israel gymnasts sets a dangerous precedent from the article from October 15th, 2025. The Israel Gymnastics Federation (IGF) says a dangerous precedent has been set after its athletes were denied entry into Indonesia for the World Artistic Championship Gymnastics Championships. Indonesia said it would not grant visas to the Israel team for the event in Jakarta from October 19th to the 25th because of the country's military offensive in Gaza. A request from the IGF for urgent provisional measures to guarantee Israeli participation, but to move or cancel the event was rejected by the Court of Arbitration for the CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The CAS said the International Gymnastics Federation, the FIG, argued that it had no prerogatives in the issuing of entry visas, and the Indonesian government's decision to not grant visas falls outside the competence of the organization. Um, I believe I've covered this. I've already talked about this. So I'm going to just skip ahead here in this article because we already talked about what Israel said on that side. So according to it says here, Shinar, who's this person? So Shinar said Indonesia's decision to deny visas to Israeli athletes was sad timing given the events of the previous day. She added that sport and politics should never interfere with each other as she pointed out she pointed the finger of blame at the FIG, given the IGF had raised the issue with them more than a year ago. She added, "We were hoping for a more diplomatic solution. We met way before a legal one. The FIG sent us a letter telling us everything is taken under control, that the authorities there gave a official letter that they will be that there will no longer be a problem, quote unquote. There is no question who's responsible for this mess in our eyes. FIG are part of the International Olympic Committee. They should be obeying all the rules and not ignoring the Olympic Charter." In September, so in September, Spain's Prime Minister said Pedro Sanchez called for Israel to be excluded from international sports competitions over its actions in Gaza. There have also been widespread calls for the country's teams to be suspended from football competitions by Europeans football's governing body, UEFA. This year's Volta, a Spanish cycling race which featured Israeli premier tech team, was severely disrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters. I remember watching that. I actually did watch the Volta España, and it's a what the Volta España is essentially is a very long. It's a biking. It's basically a biking event that happens in Spain. It happens all over the world, but it happened in Spain this year, and they had competitors from all over the world, from the UAE, from Saudi Arabia, all these other places, and the Israel Premier Tech team was also there, and they also was forward in this. They were also present there, and I believe there was a man from Bahrain who won the event. But basically, there were when I watched the event, they did say that there were protesters. They're protesting at the event, and yeah, there were people that were protesting at the Barca for the biking events. It's basically a big cross country tournament. That's what they have there. So it's quite interesting that, yeah, I mean, of course we're going to have these things happening in politics. Of course, we're going to see this later on in this live stream. This is not the first time this has happened, but there is a boycott ongoing for the Israeli athletes to be left out of um, to be excluded from these sporting events. You know, it's if it's going on with cross country biking, it's definitely going to happen with soccer and all the other sporting events, and we're going to see that later on. Um, you know, happen later on. But I want to move on from this political situation. Of course, politics and sports it, it, it's not a good mix, but we're seeing this. We're obviously seeing the effects of what happens when you have countries that are doing things, and it's politics of a country is affecting these sporting events and people who actually perform in the sports, and so this is just an effect, a cause and effect of and they say it's not fair. Well, that what can they do? These are just this is just the consequence of what's happened thus far with the situation going on between those two countries, between Gaza and Israel. So these guys have to make find a way to deal with the political consequences, and this is what is the consequence. So I'm going to move forward here and move on. I'm going to talk about some of the countries who have qualified for the World Cup. So moving forward, I mentioned that you know, Cape Verde is one of those countries that have qualified, but there's other countries as well. We have England, who's qualified, France, Haiti, and Cape Verde. I'm just mentioning this ahead of time, and also Italy. But we're getting into England now. England reaches the 2026 World Cup by downing Latvia when Ronaldo and Portugal chance to miss a spot to clinch a spot. I'm going to get into Ronaldo and definitely because there's some things that it's great. But let's just talk about this right here. So October 14th, 2025, England reaches the 2026 World Cup by routing Croatia. It says England became the first country from Europe to qualify for the 2026 World Cup on Tuesday, but Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal will have to wait after conceding a stoppage time equalizer against Hungary. England won 5-0 against Croatia, so they just destroyed Croatia, with captain Harry Kane scoring twice in the first half to assure the first place in its group with 2 matches to spare. The English, who will be appearing at a eighth straight World Cup, having conceded a goal in 6 matches in qualifying so far under German coach Thomas Tuchel. Harry Kane said, quote unquote, sometimes we make it look easy, um, but these groups and games can be tough. We talk about high standards no matter who we play against to keep the momentum, and that showed. And Harry Kane scored 21 goals for England and made much this season. Um, Continuing, it says Portugal looked to join England in next year's tournament in North America after 2 goals from the 40-year-old Ronaldo established a 2-1 lead over Hungary in Lisbon. A win would have guaranteed Portugal a first place finish, but Dominic Sub- Szoboszlai made it 2-2 draw tie in the first minute of an added on time to leave second place Hungary 5 points back with 2 games left. Ronaldo at least with left the match with another scoring record. He has now he was he now has 41 goals in World Cup qualifiers, breaking a tie for 39 he had with Guatemala player Carlos Ruiz. Italy, who has failed to qualify for the last 2 World Cups, guaranteed itself at least a place in the playoffs after beating Israel 3-0 in a match laced with tension, played amid a hefty police and military presence, and preceded by a pro-Palestinian march attended by an estimated 10,000 people. The match was placed in the highest risk category despite a breakthrough ceasefire deal that has paused 2 years of war in Gaza. Wow. So what do I say, guys? We see the consequences of it's. We're talking about the World Cup. Italy plays Israel and beats Israel, and and despite of that match, tense. There's a very tension. There's a lot of tension happening outside of the match with people, 10,000 people protesting, like, um, and and we have a heavy police and military presence outside of the stadium. I can't imagine that type of situation. That must have been very, very, very intense. Um, says here the match was considered high risk category despite a breakthrough ceasefire deal that has paused 2 years of war in Gaza. Of course, we don't cover that. The second placed Azeri moved 3 points behind Norway, which has a much healthier goal difference. Both teams have 2 matches next month, including a game against each other in Italy in the final round of qualifiers. Spain uh, stayed on top of this group, scoring 3 points ahead of clear of Turkey by beating Bulgaria 4-0 to maintain its 100% start to the qualifying campaign. Turkey also won 4-1 at home to Georgia, at least looks set for the spot in the playoffs. Tuchel, who's the German coach for the United Kingdom, says Tuchel is putting his own stamp on the England team and might potentially be winning over some critics who wanted an English person in charge of the national team. He has made some big calls, leaving out high-profile players like Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden from the squad and taking on England's fans for being too quiet in the last match, but is getting some impressive results, albeit against mediocre opposition. If the 5-0 win in Serbia last month was the statement result in Tuchel's tenure so far, the latest thrashing was another sign of the assuredness and ruthlessness in the team. Anthony Gordon opened the scoring. Harry Kane added 2 more in the first half, and there was an own goal as well as a strike from substitute Irachi Ezi over after halftime. Harry um, Tuchel said, "Brilliant, quote unquote, brilliant. Such a good move in the dressing room." While England defender John Stones added, "We're building something special." Portugal denied. Expect Ronaldo to still get a record from the sixth World Cup, but he must wait another month to be confirmed. Portugal missed the chance to wrap up qualification early, with Sabosai converting a low cross at the back to quieten home fans at the Estadio Jose Avelade. Um, Attila Szalai gave Hungary an eighth-minute lead with a header from the corner before enjoying Ronaldo stole the show, fixing space to tap his 142nd, 142nd, and 143rd international goals. Excuse me, I'm trying to read and read well. Um, Another record he holds in the men's game. The Al Nassr striker has now scored at least 2 goals in a game for Portugal on 37 occasions. The UEFA said Portugal needs just a point from its next match in Ireland on November 13th to clinch a 7th straight qualification for the World Cup. On a night of scoring doubles, Mikel Merino netted twice for Spain as the European champions made it 4 wins from 4 matches in qualifying and are yet to concede a goal. An own goal by Mikel Oyarzabal added a late fourth for Spain, which plays Georgia away and Turkey at home next month. Turkey, for whom Meher Demiral scored twice against Georgia, has just 3 points, but an inferior goal difference of 12 to make up to the Spanish. Another player with 2 goals was Matteo Gattugi for Italy in Udine, where the heavy police presence included snipers on the roof of the 25,000-seat Stadio Friuli. Less than 10,000 tickets were sold for the match that passed off without major disruption on the field. After earlier skirmishes between protesters and police on the streets of the city. Wow, definitely a lot of tension going on over there in Italy, um, and in Europe over the situation with uh, Israel and Gaza. Uh, so there's a lot of situation going on over there. Continuing here, if I can just pull up where I was at earlier, Italy. We're talking about Italy now. So we're now going in on Italy. Italy shrugs off stress, and Italy actually qualified for its first World Cup since 2014. So they haven't been in the World Cup for 10 years. They lost their last two World Cup qualifiers, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Italy. The last time I checked the World Cup, Italy actually won the last World Cup against France. And that was way back then. But that was when Italy played against France in the World Cup final. They played against Zidane in the World Cup, and the France lost because of Zidane's head club. I clearly remember Zidane headbutting an Italian player, and I remember that. Um, and Italy got the win against against France. So it says in here, you named Italy. Little seems to come easy for the Azzurri side. So if you buy the old trope about teams reflecting their coaches' personalities, then you cite Italy and the hardscrabble Gennaro Gattuso for evidence. As a player, he took a path to the World Cup that was bumpy, circuitous, via Glasgow no less, and occasionally much like his team. But when he got there, he actually won it. And this article is from October 15, 2025. As improbable as it might sound right now, that has to be the goal for Italy. It's what, after missing out on the last two World Cups, they owe their fans and themselves at a minimum. Tuesday's 3-0 win over Israel secured Italy a place in the qualification playoffs for the 2026 World Cup. It's also possible that they will qualify directly, though that's a bit saying like it's possible Bad Bunny will do his Super Bowl halftime set in Mandarin, or if it's possible 6-7 will become the Olympic motto. Oh, God, I didn't even talking about that. Group leaders, Norway would need to drop points at home against Estonia, who haven't taken points off anyone other than Moldova, and lose to Italy in the final game. Or if Norway does beat Estonia, Italy would need to make up a 16 goal difference in the final two games. Um, so far more is likely Italy heading to the runner-up playoffs next March, where they'll face either Sweden, Northern Ireland, North Macedonia, or Romania at home, and then a to-be-determined opponent in a one-game clash for a World Cup place. Doable, sure, but this is where angst and superstition have set in. Italy has failed to qualify for 3 World Cups in their history. Each time they lost in the playoffs. Their opponents, North Macedonia in 2022, Sweden in 2018, and Northern Ireland in 1958. If you really want to go there, Romania kept then world champion Italy from qualifying for the 1984 Euros too. So add that psychodrama there in the mix. History doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it often rhymes, as Mark Twain liked to say, and as Italian fans don't want to hear. That was only part of the reason things felt edgy Tuesday for Israel's visit. The other was that the game was taking place in surreal conditions, partly reminiscent of the COVID-19 era, partly of the imminent invasion from within, complete with rooftop snipers, airport-style security, and shuttered roads and businesses. Events in Gaza have prompted general labor strikes and massive demonstrations throughout Italy in the previous weeks. The vast majority was peaceful, but on multiple occasions there had been clashes between police and protesters with vandalism around the fringes. Having Israel come to town was a proverbial red flag, which is why the match was played in Udine, a staid, wealthy city in the far northeast Italy, the sort of place where folks listen to both riot police and people in fluorescent jackets. Having modern stadium to the motorway on the edge of town was another plus for a policing perspective. Despite the fact that the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel had been announced a few days before the kickoff, the authorities didn't want to take chances. A 10,000 strong pro Palestinian march was kept well sway away from the stadiums and was largely peaceful, though a small group broke away from the demonstrations and clashed with police, resulting in 15 arrests. The game itself went off without a hitch, though the enhanced controls, rumors of protesters infiltrating the match going public, and the fact that many fans shared the view of the Eugene mayor, who turned down his invitation to the game, um, meant that it wasn't the atmosphere you'd expect for a game of this importance. As a result, the third of the ground was barely filled, and the crowd was muted enough that you could hear Gattuso bellowing at his players. Three individuals were arrested, one for waving a giant Palestinian flag during the Israeli anthem. The boos of a minority were soon drowned out by the applause of the crowd. The other two were trying to enter the pitch. Get the vibe set, professional, no politics. Let's get this over with. Attention's turned to the pitch. Italy looks slow. Okay, so basically, basically, we had three players: Galugi, Donnarumma, Matteo Vitucci, and Gianluca Mancini scored 3 goals, 3-0, and they got the win against Israel. But according to this article here, it goes into more of the details about what happened in that game with Italy facing Israel at home in Udine, Italy. And according to that article here, it's a still tense, very intense situation that happened. They didn't want any politics, and I think no politics involved in the interfering with the game. And there were some people, 15 people were arrested. There were some people that tried to pull some things. You had some people that tried to get on the mat on the field and disrupt the game. You had some people that tried to boo. You had some people that tried to 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 show the Palestinian flags. Of course, when people are there, they don't want to. If there are people there to see the game, they don't want to see politics involved. But 10,000 people did protest, and there were some people that were arrested, and these things happen. So, man, in Italy, people are still protesting. I don't know if people are still protesting in Italy over what's going on. But so far, there has been a ceasefire sign. I haven't really checked out the news about what's happened with Israel and Gaza. And this is we're here. We're here. We're talking about sports. We're talking about the World Cup. I'm not trying to get involved in politics, but oftentimes these things overlap. I mentioned it in my Morocco, um, in my Morocco, in my video on Morocco in the 2030 World Cup. Morocco is, building its stadiums, but people are dying from poor healthcare in Morocco, and so there's overlap that happens with sports and politics, and oftentimes you can't ignore these things. And this is exactly what's happening with Italy. But luckily, we're not having the World Cup in Italy at all. So that's a good thing. They're just having a qualifying match over there. And Italy defeated Israel. And so they got the job done in that in this game. So Italy qualifies for the World Cup since 2014, and they haven't won. They haven't been in the World Cup for 10 years now. So congratulations to them and for them winning the World Cup. Now, going into the next article here, I'm talking about Cristiano Ronaldo now. I'm getting into it. So, according to the article on here, I just hate it when that happens. So, according to Yahoo Sports, the 2026 World Cup. This is the big news, guys. The big news. This will be Cristiano Ronaldo's last World Cup. This is his last hurrah to win the World Cup for the country of Portugal. Lionel Messi won the World Cup. He got the World Cup finals twice. He lost one World Cup to France, and he won a World Cup. And I think he beat France in the second game. Yeah, he beat France. So he wanted the World Cup. So I believe he is going into this year the 2026 World Cup. He could repeat as champion in the World Cup, but this year it's gonna be Cristiano Ronaldo's last World Cup. He's 40 years old. This is his last chance to win the World Cup. So can he get it done? We'll have to see. So according to the article here, November 11th, 2025, last month. So it says here, a 40-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo is nearing the end of his international career. Appearing via video conference at Tourism Forum in Riyadh, the Portuguese legend made a sensational announcement regarding the next chapter of his journey with Portugal. Um, when asked whether the 26 World Cup would be his last participation in the competition, the star replied, "Yes, for sure. I'll be 41 years old, and I think that will be the time." As a reminder, the five-time Ballon d'Or winner has never done better than a semi-final in the 2006 edition, where he was eliminated by France. In 2022, Portugal was knocked out in the quarterfinal rounds by Morocco. So, can Cristiano Ronaldo lead the Portuguese? Well, can the Portuguese, the entire Portuguese national team, and Cristiano Ronaldo get into get into the final of the World Cup? Can they win it all in the World Cup? Um, we don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of heavy hitters coming in. Italy is one of those teams. France is a big one because they won the last World Cup, the previous one before Messi won it. The strong team, Spain, is always going to be one of the stronger teams. They can also win it as well. Um, we don't know. Um, there's a lot of speculation, so they have a big journey ahead of them to be able to get there. But it could be in jeopardy because I'm just gonna go forward here. We already read that article. By the way, the article is on Yahoo Sports, and I'm reading on the Fox Sports here article here. Ireland plays the Ireland plays Portugal, and I've covered this already. Ireland and Portugal will face off in the world, in qualifying actions. And according to this article here, Ireland actually defeated Portugal. Ireland beat Portugal 2-0 in this game. And according to this, unfortunately, I'm just letting everyone know that Ireland defeated Portugal 2-0. So it's not looking too good for Portugal. Portugal was actually favored to win the match, but they had a plus two, they had a minus 254, but Ireland won the game uh, plus 775, and you know, so they it's just a tough loss for for Portugal to lose against Ireland. Unfortunately, in in this thing in this match, I'm just kind of going over the stats here. Uh, Ireland lost to Portugal, okay, 2-0, and so they had 10 corner kicks. Portugal had 10 corner kicks, 5 shots on goal, 27 shot attempts, 2 yellow cards. Uh, Ireland had 3 shots on goal, 14 shot attempts, 3 yellow cards, 5 corner kicks, and 5 saves. And Portugal had 1 save. Unfortunately, all those things were not able to help them uh, to get past Portugal. That's hard to get past Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, in this game. So going forward here, I'm also going to be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. He made a big mistake in this game. against Ireland because he got a red card in this game against Ireland and almost got himself banned from World Cup. So going into this article from November 25th, so Cristiano Ronaldo um, was sent off in Portugal's World Cup qualifying match against Ireland. He earned a straight red card for an elbow that he appeared to throw in the back of the head of an Irish defender. It's the type of play that earns a player a three-game suspension from FIFA. And Ronaldo was suspended, but it wasn't being served as one might think. He did miss the Portugal final qualifying match against overrated Armenia, against overmatched Armenia, but he won't miss Portugal's next two games. The controversy here is that Ronaldo's next competitive matches for Portugal, not friendlies, will be in the World Cup. So if FIFA was going to have Ronaldo serve a standard suspension, he'd have to sit out two games at the World Cup. The world governing body has chosen not to enforce such a punishment. Rather, FIFA has announced that Ronaldo will have his remaining two-game suspension for international action to be served after the World Cup. Of course, it makes sense that FIFA wouldn't want Ronaldo to sit out at the World Cup. He's one of the world's most well-known popular players. It does have fans questioning whether other players would have received similar treatment. The World Cup draw is on December 5th, so that's when Portugal will learn which games it wouldn't have Ronaldo for that, so they can now count on having their leader for. Ronaldo has already played in 5 World Cups. He has 8 goals total in those appearances. He will be 41 when the 2026 World Cup kicks off. Ronaldo may retire after the competition and never serve in that suspension at all. So looking at the suspension, Ronaldo was supposed to receive 3 game suspension during the World Cup, but he may not receive it because he's one of the star players for Portugal and one of the most famous players in the world. So honestly, we'll have to see what happened. And in this next article from ESPN, this is updated about 8 days ago on November 25th. So it says no FIFA, so no World Cup ban for Cristiano Ronaldo after the the Irish red card that he got there. Cristiano Ronaldo will likely avoid missing any Portugal games at the 2026 World Cup despite his red card in a qualifying match for elbowing a Republic of Ireland opponent. FIFA published a disciplinary verdict Tuesday that imposed a 3 game ban, which judged Ronaldo's actions as violent conduct with serious foul play, but with the two of those games deferred for a 1 year probation period. Ronaldo served a mandatory 1 game ban, but Portugal played its final qualifying game last week, a 9-1 win over Armenia that sealed their place at the World Cup in North America. The superstar had been expected to be banned for at least one more game and start when what will be his record 6th World Cup on the sidelines. FIFA cited its disciplinary rules that allow for parts of a sanction to be probationary, though it is rare in cases of a 3 game ban for 2 of them to be deferred. In 2 cases judged by FIFA this month, players from Armenia and Burundi were banned for 3 games after getting red cards. The acts of aggression in the World Cup qualifying games, and neither got a reduction on probation. If Cristiano Ronaldo, quote, as the FIFA said in a statement, quote unquote, if Cristiano Ronaldo commits another infringement of a similar nature and gravity during the probationary period, then the remaining 2 games will be activated. FIFA has disciplinary authority over national teams games, and Portugal are scheduled to play 2 friendly matches in March, then likely 1 or 2 warm-up games in late May or June. The World Cup, co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, starts June 11th. Ronaldo swung an arm and struck an Ireland defender, Dara O'Shea, with an elbow during a 2 game loss in Dublin 2 weeks ago. It was Ronaldo's first red card in what was his record extending 226 international appearances. He has been sent off 13 times at club level. It was unclear who could have legal standing to challenge the verdict, and if that might be the Soccer Federation of Ireland or Portugal's opponents at the World Cup. The FIFA verdict comes 6 days after Ronaldo met U.S. President Donald Trump at the U.S. White House for a formal dinner with Saudi Arabia's current Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Ronaldo has played in the Saudi Pro League for 3 years for a club majority owned Saudi sovereign wealth that has Prince chairs. That the Prince chairs. Um, and honestly, I believe Ronaldo definitely deserves to serve this 2 game ban because he has people with money. He definitely is getting away with this ban because you have obviously have other teams, Armenia and players from Armenia and Burundi, who were banned because they they got violent for acts of aggression in the World Cup. Now, yeah, Ronaldo is one of the most famous players in the world, and he has a lot of money, so he has the backing of people who can kind of bend the rules for him a little bit. So if he does it again, we'll have to see if that's going to happen. I don't think it will, but hopefully it doesn't happen. But let's continue here. Ronaldo needs to control his anger. So I'm going to kind of go into the 2026 World Cup schedule here. All right. So going in here, so we're looking into the U.S. Men's National Team World Cup. I didn't want to talk too much about the U.S. Men's National Team, um, but going into this, we're going to be learning about some of the opponents. So what's going to happen here? The U.S. Men's National Team, they're going to be facing some opponents. And this article is from Sports Illustrated on November 20th, 2025. The U.S. Men's National Team schedule for 2026 is taking shape as the FIFA World Cup has host nation prepares for the tournament. Mauricio Pochettino's side are unbeaten in their first 5 games, ending 2025 on a high note with a 5-1 rout of Uruguay. A formation shift has paid dividends with the team looking more resolute and tactically mature against opponents. The U.S. men's national team were offensively and defensively superior to Uruguay despite 9 changes to the starting 9. The Argentine manager has successfully instilled belief and confidence heading into the World Cup year. They'll learn their group stage opponents on December 5th, but the U.S. men's national team won't play a match for over 4 months given there won't be a January camp. Here's the remaining schedule for the World Cup. So the match 2026, the U.S. men's national team will be playing Portugal in March and playing Belgium as well at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Portugal and Belgium have proposed opponents according to The Athletic. Both top 10, 50 ranked countries qualified for the World Cup at the end of the November window. Avoiding the European playoffs freed them up for the window, and confirmation has yet to be announced. Both countries would provide certain tests for the U.S. men's national team given their pedigree. Portugal recently won the UEFA Nations League, while Belgium are consistently a knockout stage side at the World Cups, excluding their group stage in Qatar. The Portugal friendly, which has been signed off on, would mark the first time Cristiano Ronaldo plays a match on U.S. soil since 2014. March represents, um, reloading this again. March represents the final camp for the U.S. men's national team before Pochettino names his World Cup roster. Um, so yeah, and we have our next pre-World Cup window in from May to June. May, they're not playing. It's to be determined. They'll be playing in Charlotte, and in June, the U.S. men's national team will play Germany. Um, so 2 more friendlies are being planned right before the tournament. The U.S. men's national team are targeting a match in Charlotte with their opponents set to be confirmed after the group stage. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with that. I'm going to have to stop there. Anyone who's interested in learning more about that can click on the link of the article and read up on it. Um, Continuing, the next part just hate this. So in this article here, I'm not talking about Curacao, one of the Caribbean nations from the Caribbean nation of Curacao. It's one of the smallest nations ever to qualify for the World Cup. So it says Curacao has become the smallest nation to qualify for the World Cup finals after hanging on for a 0-0 draw against Jamaica on the first day of CONCACAF qualifying. Panama and Haiti also booked their spots in the tense final round of qualifying for their region. It is home to host nations and automatic qualifiers for the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The tiny island nation, located in the Caribbean, boasts a population of 156,000 people and a landmass of just 444 square kilometers. Curacao finished as the only undefeated nation in the tournament and finished atop of Group B with 12 points. They surpassed Iceland's record when they qualified in 2018 with a population of just over 350,000 people. Curacao, managed by former Premier boss Dick Advocaat, who missed the match against Jamaica for personal reasons, went their entire qualification campaign unbeaten, recording a mammoth 7-0 win over Bermuda on their way to securing their place at the World Cup. Advocaat was at the helm of the Netherlands national team for 3 stints and managed South Korea, Belgium, and Russia before taking the job with Curacao. Curacao were found their group stage opponents for a historic first World Cup appearance when the draw is made on December 5th at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Panama advanced to its second World Cup after defeating El Salvador 3-0 on the first half goal from Cesar Blackman and Eric Davis. Jose Luis Rodriguez added a goal for the Panamanians, who have Russia 2018 as their only World Cup appearance. Panama finished as the seventh as the best team in Group A with 12 points, while Suriname, which came in the last round leading the way on goal difference, lost 3-1 against Guatemala and finished in second place with 9 points. Haiti had a surprising campaign, winning Group C over favorites Honduras and Costa Rica after beating Nicaragua. The results from Group C mean both Honduras and Costa Rica won't be involved in the next summer's tournament. Lucius Deedson opened the scoring in the 9th minute, and Ruben Providence added a goal in the 45th. Haiti's only previous trip to the World Cup in Germany was in 1974. The Haitians finished with 11 points, while Honduras had 9 and Costa Rica finished with 7. Second place finishers Jamaica and Suriname clinched the first 2 CONCACAF spots for FIFA's Inter-Federation playoff and will compete with Bolivia, New Caledonia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Iraq in a 16 tournament in March for 2 World Cup spots. So they got the work cut out for them. The second place finishers Jamaica and Suriname got their work cut out for them. So we got the who's coming and who's not going to be in the World Cup. This article is from November 19th, 2025. So we have Manchester United forward Brian Mbeumo and Liverpool midfielder Dominic Szoboszlai among the front star names who will not feature at the World Cup. So these are just talking about some of the players that are going to be here. Skipping down. So we have some teams that will make the World Cup debuts in 2026, such as Curacao, Uzbekistan, and Cape Verde. Much of the next year's lineup is a collection of the biggest footballing nations from across the globe. Despite that, some major footballing countries have missed out on a spot at next year's World Cup. From Europe, Serbia, Greece, and Hungary are the biggest names that will not feature. In terms of population, China and India are 2 of the largest countries on the planet, but neither will play at the World Cup. Nigeria has been at 7 World Cups since the start of the last tournament held in the United States in 1994, with fellow African nation and the 1990 quarterfinalist Cameroon featuring at 6. However, neither will play in 2026 after being knocked out of Africa's playoff. Trinidad and Tobago, who played in England's group at the 2006 World Cup, head up the list of countries from North America and the Caribbean not to play at the newly formatted tournament. Costa Rica and Honduras, who both faced England in 2014 at the group stages and warm-up matches respectively, were the last 2 teams to exit World Cup qualifying on Tuesday. Venezuela, Peru, and Chile The last three South American countries guaranteed to not feature, with 9 of the 11 countries from Oceania also failing to qualify, with 42 and 142 to qualify and 145 out. That leaves 22 teams who can still qualify via either international, intercontinental, or European playoffs. So you've got a number of countries that are not going to be in the World Cup next year. India, China, Peru, Chile, India, China, Chile, Trinidad and Tobago, Cameroon, um, Nigeria, China, and India. Those are the biggest nations. And I think I did an article on China. China, it obviously has been a harsh. They've been struggling a lot with their their they've been struggling with their soccer teams. Their soccer teams just they don't put a lot of effort into it. Surprisingly, there's some interesting news coming out about Nigeria. So the Nigerians have claimed that the Democratic Republic of Congo have actually costed them the game by doing voodoo against them in the game, and they believe that they did voodoo on them and caused them to lose the game. Let's just say allegedly. So continuing here, this article is from November 17, 2025. Nigerian head coach Eric Chell has accused Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo side of voodoo during the penalty shootout that saw the end of his side's chances qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. Frank Anoikia put Nigeria ahead of them in the crucial qualifier before Meshach Elias equalizer took the game to a penalty shootout where the Democratic Republic of Congo came out 4-3 winners and kept their own World Cup dreams alive. After the result, um, the Nigerian head coach Eric Xiao made an unusual accusation when talking about the shootout that confirmed that Nigeria will miss a second World Cup in a row. Xiao told reporters, quote unquote, during all the penalty decision, the guy of Congo did some voodoo every time. Every time, so this is why I was a little nervous after him. When asked about what he saw, Xiao waved his right arm, but he couldn't confirm the specifics of his claim. He said, quote unquote, something like waving his arms, but I don't know if that's water or something like that, quote unquote. The defeat, which came against the side ranked 19 places below them, condemned Nigeria to a third missed World Cup since 2006. Nigeria, in the aftermath of the loss, apologizing to their fans and the president of the country. Uh, Nigeria's Football Federation said, quote, the Nigeria Football Federation wishes to openly and sincerely apologize to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to the federal government as a whole, and to millions of Nigerians, most especially our passionate, loyal football fans, following the Super Eagles' failures to qualify for the 2026 World Cup Finals. Sunday's loss to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the Africa final playoff in Rabat remains a moment of profound sadness for the Nigerian football. For a nation where the Super Eagles serve as a symbol of unity, hope, and collective pride, missing out on the World Cup for a second consecutive time is a disappointment of great weight and emotional depth. The NFF technical crew and the players understand the gravity of this moment. We understand the expectations of Nigerians rightly hold. We understand the passion and sacrifice of a country that has always stood firmly behind its team through its triumphs and trials. We recognize that our collective effort did not deliver the outcome the nation deserved. Um, I mean, they lost two. They did lose in this game, but they don't have to. You know, it is what it is. They are profoundly, deeply saddened by the loss of losing, not qualifying for the World Cup for the second time. I mean, you're not the only one in that boat. I mean, France, Italy didn't qualify for two World Cups. They almost didn't qualify for the third one, but they made it in. But soccer is taken very seriously in Nigeria, and I know for many of our favorite Nigerian people out there, you guys are very much passionate about soccer and football. So it is what it is. They lost. Moving on. Next article here. Um, Now I'm going into a situation involving Haiti, and there's some interesting information out there. Haiti qualified for the World Cup, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the coach of the Haitian national team who has helped Haiti to get to qualify for the World Cup. So it says here, November 19th, 2025. Danger Island. I'm a former EFL player who led Haiti to World Cup 2026, but I've never been there as it's too dangerous. So the coach of the Haitian national team is called Sebastien Mignet, who has guided Haiti to their first World Cup since 1974, despite never setting foot on the Caribbean island. The 2-0 victory against Nicaragua sealed a spot in football's biggest tournament last night. Mignet, who had a spell with the EFL side Leighton Orient during his playing career, was handed the managerial reins last year. But the Frenchman has not bossed Haiti on home soil since taking the job. That is because gang violence in the conflict-torn country has resulted in home games having played having to be played 500 miles away in Curacao, who have also booked their place at the next year's World Cup. Travelers have been advised not to visit Haiti because of the alarming risks of kidnappings, crimes, terrorist activity, and civil unrest. And McNay has been forced to continue calling the shots from overseas as he now prepares for the tournament in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. He told France Football magazine, it's quote unquote, it's impossible to go to Haiti because it's too dangerous. I usually live in the countries where I work, but I can't here. There are no international flights landing there, quote unquote. Telephone calls from officials at the Haitian Football Federation have been the only way for men to get information about local players. The former Congo, Kenya, and Equatorial Guinea chief added, quote unquote, they gave me information and I managed the team remotely. Wolves attacking midfielder Jean Victor Bellegarde play a key role in Haiti sealing their spot at the World Cup for the first time in more than half a century. He started all six of the qualifying matches, including the wins over Costa Rica and Nicaragua during the current international break. Haiti's other appearance in the World Cup saw them lose to Italy, Poland, and Argentina as they were co-signed to an early exit. But McNay, who's 52, has more recent experience in the tournament as he was Cameroon's assistant manager in 2022. Um, so there we have a picture of Jean-Luc Bellegarde. So he has definitely been the key player in Haiti qualifying for the World Cup. And Haiti has much to overcome, much like Curacao. And because Haiti qualified for the World Cup for the second time, and this from SportsStar.com, Haiti beat Nicaragua 2-0 on Tuesday as the Elgulio Hato Stadium in Williamstad, Curacao, to qualify for the World Cup for the second time. Haiti beat Nicaragua to qualify for the World Cup for the second time ever. Um, so Lucius Dietzen found the net in the 8th minute while Ruben Providence doubled the lead in the first half stoppage time. The victory ensured Haiti's first appearance in FIFA World Cup since 1974. Haiti's qualification was remarkable given that armed gangs have taken control of almost all of the capital, Port-au-Prince, in a conflict that has forced some 1.3 million people from their homes and fueled famine-level hunger. The levels of danger in Haiti are such as that their coach Sebastien Ming has not been there since being appointed 18 months ago, but the Frenchman has nevertheless managed to engineer a fairy tale qualification. Haiti started the final round of fixtures on Tuesday behind Honduras on goal difference, but the two goals lifted it atop the standings with 11 points. Honduras 2-0 at Costa Rica and finished on 9. So there we have it. Haiti qualified for the World Cup since 1974, 50 years. Um, and with that, because Haiti has won and qualified for the World Cup, um, the Haitian national team is going to be in the tournament, but the fans, the people who are the countrymen from Haiti are not going to be allowed in the United States, thanks to the political situation in the U.S. Um, Much like we see how the situation happened with Italy, with Udine, Italy, and people protesting against Israel in Haiti. You're going to see there's no protesting happening in the United States. That's the difference. But the difference is that the president of the United States and the immigration have decided to ban Haitians, national Haitian citizens, from coming and entering the U.S. and appearing to support the Haitian national team. So FIFA. So before I get into that, FIFA President Gianni Infantino hints he will strip host cities of World Cup 2026 games if Donald Trump demands it. So the Gianni Infantino seems to be in bed with Donald Trump, and there would be cities that would be taken, that would lose World Cup games if the President of the United States demands the games be taken away. So, according to the Sun.com, this article was written um, November 18th, 2025, last month. Donald Trump, so FIFA President Gianni Infantino hinted he is ready to take games off planned World Cup host cities. In a move that puts Infantino at odds with his Vice President, Canada's Victor Mantagliani, and will cause a grave disquiet. The Swiss backed Trump in an appearance alongside the U.S. President in the White House. So they have a lot of politics going on within FIFA. So Gianni Infantino is going to be at odds with his vice president, Victor Mattolini. So continuing here, there was supposed to be an announcement over a new visa system for fans wishing to visit the U.S. to watch games next summer. It was overtaken as President Trump castigated Democrat-run cities and was backed up by FIFA chief. President Trump has previously suggested he might intervene to strip games from Seattle, Boston, and fans of San Francisco, while he is expected to clash with recently elected New York Mayor Saran Mandani. Democratic socialist and political newcomer Katie Wilson was confirmed in Seattle's new mayor-elect last week, and Trump was asked directly if he was going to be watching the city with crime with regard to the six World Cup games scheduled to be there. At various points, President Trump, flanked by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, suggested to Infantino as he replied, quote unquote, if we think there's going to be a sign of any trouble, I would suggest Yachty to move to a different city. We have a lot of cities that would love to have it, number one, and will do it very safely, quote unquote. Um, Continuing here, Trump said, quote unquote, the governors and the mayors are going to have to behave. In California, you have a problem. You have high crime in a place that just suffered great fires. So here is the story. I love Los Angeles. If they want to help during this, I would love to send in the National Guard or whoever is necessary. I want it to be great. I love Los Angeles. I love the place. Um, if we think there's going to be crime, we are to be obstructed by the governor, Gavin Newsom. Maybe he won't obstruct us. I would love for him to call and say we would like to help. If there is even a hint of a problem, we want to get in there before the problem occurs. We want it to be totally safe for Gianni and FIFA. I would be honored to help California. We can be there in 24 hours and do a great job. If we think I will have to speak to Gianni about this. The mayor of Los Angeles is incompetent. Everyone knows it. If we didn't go in early on, we not only would you have had fires, but you would have had a total insurrection in Los Angeles. If we didn't go in, the police said we could not have it without the federal government. If we think there's a problem in Seattle, then where you have a very liberal communist mayor, I would say certainly beyond just liberal. If I watched her over the weekend, that's another beauty we got there. But I think there's going to be a problem. Well, Gianni, I can say, to remove the event to someplace it won't be specifically appreciated and safe. Quote unquote, I'm gonna have to stop right there because Trump is saying a lot there, and he's quoting, he's saying he's talking about the fires that happened way back in like last year, and also I was talking about the new elected mayors that just elected recently in the United States. Um, so it says here, from the article here, those comments put Infantino on the spot, and rather than push back, citing the costs have already accrued by the 11 host U.S. cities and the proximity of next month's World Cup draw in Washington D.C. short timetable, he appeared to be prepared to be doing Trump's bidding. Gianni Infantino said, "quote unquote, safety and security is the number one priority for a successful World Cup. We can see today that people have trust in the United States when we see the ticket sales. We've sold record-breaking figures of tickets, almost 2 million already. This is because people, they know they will be coming here and they will experience a safe and secure World Cup." So according to this picture here, it's according, I mentioned it before that the World Cup will be held in 12 and 13 cities. From New York, New Jersey. It will be held in Boston, Massachusetts, and Seattle. Seattle will be held in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Philadelphia, Miami, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, and it's also going to be held in Canada and Mexico. I'm just focused specifically on the United States right now. So in case anyone wants to know, that's what it's going to be. So again, we're seeing the situation of politics and sports getting mixed up here, and these things are bound to happen. So continuing here, says Christy Neome. Uh, yeah, Christy Neome says, I'm just going to continue here. President Trump says he added it's the responsibility, of course, of the government, of Secretary Noem, of everyone. Obviously, we will discuss. We are working together. We have the task force for this. We will ensure that all fans coming from abroad who are here, they can experience a celebration of coming together of the sport. And this goes back 100% safety. Christy Noem backed up Trump saying we are communicating with all these mayors about what the responsibilities are. They know the safety and security of these events and the other number one priority. And they will be there. The president's always said to keep Americans safe, and they always make sure that people know their responsibilities are. They prepare to host these events and do so in a safe manner. So, I'm just going to skip forward here. And go forward um, with the additional news here, talking about the U.S. men's national team World Cup here. So it says the World to the World Cup. We have Mauricio Pochettino's side unbeaten. This is from SportsIllustrated.com. The U.S. men's national team is scheduled for 2026, taking shape as the World Cup. I think I've mentioned this before. Yes, I have. So I'm going to skip this article here, move to the next one. So, according to The Guardian, um, talking more about the World Cup, it says the World Cup 2026 playoffs draw. World Cup, uh, we have the matchups. We have Wales versus Bosnia, Czech Republic versus Republic of Ireland, Italy versus Northern Ireland. It's from The Guardian. So, in Group A, we have the 2020, these are confirmed matches. Italy is facing Northern Ireland in Group A. Wales is facing Bosnia in Group A. Group B, Ukraine is facing Sweden. Poland is facing Albania. In Group C, Turkey is facing Romania. Um, in this matchup here. In Group D, Group C, Turkey is facing Romania. Slovakia is facing Kosovo. Group D, Denmark is facing North Macedonia. Czech Republic is facing Ireland. So the winner of that, they can go on to face either the winners of Group A and Group Group A. Basically, whoever wins Group A will be qualifying for that. So, I mean, anybody can read up on this. It's just I'm still trying to learn this myself. It's kind of confusing, but yeah, we have it from November 25th, 2025, from the Guardian here, really more about that. So, we're going to be getting into the article talking about political Haiti qualified for the World Cup. The Trump administration is not allowing its own fans to enter the United States. So this is more recent from November 25th, November 21st. The Trump administration will not grant any special exceptions for Haitian soccer fans hoping to travel to the U.S. to follow their team at next year's FIFA World Cup. According to the State Department, Haiti, which qualified for the World Cup since 1974, is covered by a travel ban President Trump signed in June 2025. The presidential proclamation restricts people from 19 countries from entering the United States, while including exemptions for players and their families, coaches, and support personnel to participate in major sporting events. That the State Department confirmed to Politico on Friday that this exception will not apply to Haitian fans or spectators hoping to attend. Haiti joins Iran as the second country covered under this travel ban to qualify for a place in the tournament, which the United States will co-host with Canada and Mexico. The same travel ban restrictions apply to both countries. The Trump administration's insistence on maintaining a blanket ban due to travelers' country of origin is likely to raise hackles from within the international soccer community, which has historically celebrated the World Cup as a gathering place for fans from around the world. World Cup hosts have typically streamlined visa requirements to facilitate travel for visiting fans following their home teams. Concerns about the effects of Trump's immigration and border policies have hung over preparations for the tournament, which begins next June. Gianni Infantino, the president of the tournament organizer FIFA, has previously said fans from all over the world will be welcome. The Trump administration's list target nations the administration says are national security risks, have high visa overstay rates, and where it's infeasible to vet visitors and visa applicants. Haiti is facing a severe political crisis marked by widespread gang violence and worsening humanitarian conditions, with the teams playing home games outside of the country. The State Department said fans will submit visa applications and schedule interviews to attend the games, but that they may be ineligible for visa issuance or admission to the United States. The ban also included an exception for applicants whose travel would advance U.S. national interests. Through a State Department spokesperson said such exceptions will likely be very rare. Fans are likely to begin attempting to make travel plans after the tournament schedule, with specific match dates and locations set by a draw that will take place on December 5th in Washington. The Haitian embassy did not immediately respond to Politico's request for a comment, and tournament organizer FIFA declined to comment. So, again, according to this article, we're seeing politics involved, and Haiti is put on that list along with Iran to be banned from, from entering the United States because of security reasons, um, according to them. So it's quite sad that Haitian fans will not be able to see their team perform in the World Cup. So both Haiti and Iran are going to be fighting on foreign soil to advance in the tournament to get far. So we'll have to see what will happen going forward with that. So, according to the same article a few days later, this is from the Sports Business Journal. Trump travel ban blocks Haitian fans from attending the World Cup. So now Haitian fans are not even able to set foot on the United States to attend the World Cup. So according to this article from sportsbusinessjournal.com, the Trump administration will not grant any special exceptions for Haitian soccer fans hoping to travel to the U.S. for next year's FIFA World Cup, which this week qualified to compete in the tournament for the first time since 1973. Is covered by a travel ban President Trump signed in June. This article was happened on November 23rd, like 2 days later, While it includes exceptions for players and their families, coaches, and support personnel to participate in major sporting events, those will not apply to Haitian fans or spectators hoping to attend. Haiti joins Iran as the second country covered under the travel ban to qualify for a place in the tournament, which the United States will co-host with Canada and Mexico. The same level of travel ban restrictions apply to both countries. Um, so I'm sure that despite the fact that Haitians cannot attend, cannot follow the Haitian national team in the United States, I'm sure they can still go to Canada and Mexico to see their team perform. Iran can also go to Canada and Mexico as well. I don't know about what we'll have to see what the news will be with that going forward. But but for now, Haitians fans will not be able to go in to enter into the United States um, to actually see the Haitian national team perform. The Haitian national team players and the personnel, they can come in, but not the Haitian fans. So, that would just have to do with that. Again, with the travel ban that happened. So I'm gonna end it on this right here, on this for this live stream for today, guys. Despite hurdles of Ontario, Canada, Toronto, Ontario, Canada will be ready for the World Cup in in June 2026. Um, so as I said, despite hurdles, Toronto will be ready for the World Cup. City tells AFP, and this article is from November 26, 2025. Says the 2026 World Cup will be first played across three countries, but unlike the United States and Mexico, Canada has never been hosted before. In Toronto, which is splitting Canadian matches with Vancouver, the run-up to the tournament has faced obstacles. Those have included occasionally diverging views with FIFA on spending essentials and budget uncertainty. But the executive director of FIFA World Cup in Toronto, Sharon Bolenbach, told AFP hurdles were to be expected, promising the city is going to be ready for a kickoff in just over 6 months. Sharon Bolenbach said, "quote unquote," to make a decision to be a host city in a World Cup is a big bold decision. I really believe that big cities like Toronto sometimes need to make big bold decisions, and those aren't always popular with everyone. Most of the tournament will be played in the United States, which hosted the 1994 games. Mexico, like Canada, will have 13 World Cup matches. It previously hosted in 1970 and 1986. Sharon Bolenbach noted no country or FIFA has experience with a 48 team and 104 matches, a fact that has allowed for some flexibility in hosting negotiations. There were cases where Toronto told FIFA, "That's kind of over the top. We can't manage that from a budget perspective," Sharon Bolenbach told AFP, calling such dialogue really good. One example was training sites. FIFA wanted Toronto to build 3 new pitches, which ultimately willing to back down on that, quote unquote, as what Bolenbach said. She also says, quote unquote, "We wanted to make sure if we were the building training sites, but they were actually going to be used," she added. "We went from needing multiple new pitches for training sites down to one." Toronto will learn which teams it's hosting after the World Cup draw in Washington next week. Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed that he would attend alongside U.S. President Donald Trump. Sharon Bolenbach said initial rough projections indicated 300,000 people may visit Toronto during the tournament, numbers that will be refined after the draw. Toronto may also have to prepare for higher numbers, given the prospect some football fans may be more comfortable traveling to Canada than the United States. President Trump pledged in May that all fans would be welcome during the World Cup, but there is evidence in his policies, including immigration raids, have suppressed tourism. The travel research from Tourism Economics forecast in August that total international arrivals into the United States would fall by 8.2% in 2025, citing quote unquote negative global travel sentiment towards the United States. Um, Said Bombach said, quote unquote, I think that's how people feel, not even related to the World Cup, adding it would be wise for Toronto to consider the chance to receive some anti-Trump visitor bump. Toronto's World Cup matches will be played at an upgraded BMO field, home of the city's MLS franchise, Toronto FC. The lack of major capital projects has helped contain expenses, Bombach said, with current hosting budget pegged at roughly Canadian $380 million. That's 277 million before it received funding commitments from the province of Ontario. The tournament starts in June, but that funding deal is not complete, with city provincial budget talks a constant source of drama in the Canadian politics. Should Volbach said, quote unquote, the discussions are ongoing. There's been a bit of back and forth behind the scenes. Estimated hosting cities are higher in Vancouver, partly due to required renovations of the BC Place Stadium, and the private sector in the West Coast city has raised concern about sufficient hotel spaces, local media have reported. So, according to the article from Barron's.com, Toronto, Canada should be ready to host the World Cup in Toronto next year in June. So we are going to have to see what the news is with the World Cup next year, and there's a lot that could happen between now and then, and also there's a lot that could happen in the immigration policies of the United States and the political situation involving Italy and Israel and people boycotting Israel. There's a lot of things going on that that could affect FIFA's and World Cup's uh, uh, standing and the perception of what's going on with the World Cup. Um, Also, we can't also forget Mexico and the cartel situation over there, but that remains to be seen. Of course, that remains to be seen. Obviously, I think things are going to be improving, and as we get closer and closer to the World Cup, we should have a pretty solid World Cup going forward. But that remains to be seen again with the situation going on. Um, Toronto is going to be receiving a big boost and a lot of money coming in, and see what happens with that going forward. So, guys, I'll have to end it right here for this live stream. I will be posting the timestamps to this in this live stream because there's a lot that we covered, a lot that we talked about. I'm definitely going to be posting the timestamps in this live stream so everybody can catch up on everything. And in case if you don't want to watch anything of what I'm talking about, you can always skip ahead to the next part of the live stream, so everyone can watch what they want to watch and listen to what they listen to. So, without further ado, guys, I'll let you go. I'll talk to you later. It's been a snowy day today. It's a snowy day, and so far, I've been enjoying the nice weather outside. Can't complain about it. I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Have a good day, and see you